Hi, I'm Paul Vacheski, NebraskaLandlord.com. Hey, I wanted to bring another video on legal notices in Nebraska. The next one we're going to talk about is just the simple 30-day notice. The 30-day notice is used for a couple of different things. The first thing that it's used for is, the most common is to end your lease agreement. So the tenant is going to give the landlord or the property manager the proper 30-day notice saying that, hey, at the end of my lease, I'm going to move out. The landlord can also use it to give to the tenant to say, I don't want you, I'm not going to allow you to renew your lease. And then we also use 30-day notices to make changes to rules within the rental unit. So I'll give you an example. Maybe the property manager is changing the hours of the laundry room, or they're changing the hours of the swimming pool. So they would have to give the tenants a 30-day notice of the change. And they can actually make minor changes to the community rules, as long as those rules don't substantially modify the original terms of the lease agreement, which changing the laundry room hours wouldn't rise to that level, but a notice is still required. So let's take a look here. I want to use the most common reason we use the 30-day notice, and that is to end tenancy. So let's say that the tenant is going to end their lease on April 30th, which is the last day of the month. This is very important. And this also applies to landlords. So if the landlord does not want to renew the tenant's lease at the end of the period on April 30th, then they would make sure that they serve the notice in the same method to the tenant. So let's take a look here. So the lease is going to end on April 30th. The tenant or the landlord, depending on the situation, would need to give notice on or before March 31st. To the tenant, indicating that they're going to be obviously terminating the lease and moving out on the last day of April. Very important, because let's say that they wait until April 2nd. The tenant waits till April 2nd to notify the landlord that they're going to be moving out. Well, it's not really a 30-day notice. It goes from period to period. So legally, the landlord, even though the lease says that it ends on April 30th, because the notice wasn't given properly, the tenant is still responsible for rent. Now it's been tolled, T-O-L-L-E-D, tolled until May 31st. So technically and legally, the landlord could say, well, because you didn't serve me the proper notice, you gave me notice on April 2nd, you're responsible for rent, utilities, and all that now until May 31st. So very important that you understand that even though we call it a 30-day notice, it really isn't. It could be much more than that given the scenario here. So that's the proper way to do the 30-day notice.